if you have made enough of an impression on somebody through the way that you communicate and the work that you do, and they feel like they want to share that story, that's the best kind of advertising. Yeah, so my name is Brian Lewis, owner of American Shine here in Sterling, formerly Speed Freak Detailing for the guys that have been around for a really, really long time. Started back in 2010 professionally, and was known as Speed Freak, which was kind of just a weird story of how that name came to be. Rebranded in 2017 to American Shine, so we've been doing it about 15 years. Started, kind of as a one-man show, like I think a lot of us do, and did that for a few years. I did the mobile stuff, and then got my first shop, and gradually just started expanding, and just growing and growing and growing. And I think, like a lot of people, you do it yourself for long enough, and then you start to reevaluate, and say, okay, where do I want this to go? Where do I want to be in 10, 15, 20 years? And for me, I didn't want to have to keep relying on only myself to do everything. It's basically, any one-man show can relate when, you want to take a vacation, you need to take sick time off, and it's really, the work stops when you stop. This is very physical work. I think everybody can attest to that. I didn't start doing this until I was almost 30 years old. So I kind of got a little bit of a late start, and, at going on 45, the body is just not the same as it used to be. And so, I really kind of stepped back and said, where do I want to be 10, 15, 20 years down the road? And, I can't do the things that I want to do if everything relies on me, and I think I wanted other people to have an opportunity to be a part of what we're doing here. It's something that I've always been really passionate about, and finding like-minded individuals and sharing that with a team that's equally as passionate is something that is very fulfilling. I think any business owner can, again, attest to that, and you're enriching the lives of other people too, and helping them reach their goals. And that's something that's always been important to me. Like I said in the intro speech, I'm really big at promoting from within. I really believe in rewarding those that put the time in, that put the effort in, that show up and grind. And I love to see the progression of our employees as they move up that ladder, and so it's important to me. Yeah, I think, again, anybody that's in this industry can attest to the fact that it's a very small, it's a very niche type of an industry. And to do the work that we do at the quality level that all of us are trying to achieve, you really have to have a very special type of person. You've got to have somebody that's really kind of, weird, a little nutty in the head. I think, we're all probably a little nutty, myself included. So having somebody that, is very detail oriented, first and foremost, it's gotta be something that I think is a character trait, rather than something that's learned, and it's very hard to find people that possess those types of traits. So we've been through a lot of employees, and some of them find out within the first month or so that this is a lot, and they're not cut out for it, which is perfectly fine. But people who are passionate about cars, just making things beautiful. I'm a somewhat artistic person, always have been, and I think that what we do with all these projects, there's very much an artistic flair that you're kind of injecting into your work. And so finding people that possess those types of characteristics, it's tough. But when you find them, it's like a sigh of relief. And I I think any business owner can relate. Ultimately, our goal when we hand the reins off is, if I could clone myself 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 times over, that's the ideal candidate. And I try to train all my guys to be, basically replications of myself in here.
At 30 to do this?
Yeah, so, I've just always been a car nut from ever since I can remember. We were talking about yesterday, and I really wish I would have brought these in, but I've got old photo albums of pictures of myself that, I'm barely even able to walk, and somehow I made it into my way into my parents' car, and I'm standing in front of the wheel, gripping it, and acting like I'm driving, and probably didn't really understand what I was doing, but in some fashion was just drawn to it. So it's always been a part of my life, who I am. I can remember my first car, even just driving down the highway, and I always enjoyed it. I was kind of involved in the performance aspect, early on, and still am a bit, but making things faster, making them perform better. But that went hand in hand with looking a certain way. I was the guy when I was 16 washing my car every weekend, and the neighbors are walking by, and they say, "You're going to wash the paint right off of that thing if you wash it anymore." And I just always enjoyed the process from start to finish of going through and making everything as beautiful it possibly could be. In the young days, to me, detailing was washing, waxing, cleaning, vacuuming. You wipe your car down. Somewhere around 2007, I think it was, I had gotten a new car, and I had stumbled across an online message forum, autopia.org, and I don't even know if it's still around or not, but some of the old heads definitely would remember that. And they had a section in there that was like a professional's click and brag, is what they called it. And so you would have these guys that did paint corrections, and they did these details, and they would list the products that they used, their process. And I was just fascinated. To me, I never heard of a paint correction. I didn't know anything about polishing and compounding. And so I found a gentleman that was in the area. Really, at that time, there was one person doing it. And I had him do a new Corvette that I had bought, and was just fascinated. And he was gracious enough to kind of show me the ropes. And I bought a Flex 3401, which, I think a lot of us started on that way before the days of the Rupes machines. So I learned to polish my own car, and eventually started doing family members' cars and friends' cars, and it just turned into kind of this weekend side hustle for extra play money, and here we are. But I was in sales for a lot of years, and it built to a point where I had enough clientele that I was able to quit the job that I was in, and really just focus on what I was passionate about.
To share that information with people that are coming in for a service.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the first step is, I always tell everybody, go check out our Google reviews. That's straight from the customer's mouth. I don't tell anybody what to write, other than please share your experience. And if you have made enough of an impression on somebody through the way that you communicate and the work that you do, and they feel like they want to share that story, that's the best kind of advertising. And again, if anyone wants to see how we work, go read those reviews. But obviously there's a lot of competition in the area. If I'm having a conversation with somebody about why would you go with us, experience counts for a lot. There's a lot of companies that pop up, they're around for a year or two, maybe 3 years, and they just decide it's not for them, it's too hard to work, or for one reason or another, they just can't stay the course. And we've been doing this for 15 years. I still am just as passionate about it as the day that we started, and I think that it shows through in our work. A lot of our work is repeat business, referrals. We've got guys that are still with us today as clients that have been with us since day one, and I think that's a testament to doing great work. And usually what I tell people is, if you give us a try, give us a shot, the experience that you have here that I want to give you, you're never going to go anywhere else. We treat everyone as extended family, and really truly care about them, and from a more than just a transactional type of an approach. And that works a lot of the time. We're definitely not the cheapest guy in town. Never wanted to be, and that's great for some people, and some people it doesn't jive with. But I really try to create a more personalized experience, and once they've had an interaction here, it's going to be impossible to go somewhere else.
Sometimes, certain stories or certain scenarios.
Yep. Yeah, we have a very active military and veteran client, kind of database, and I didn't necessarily seek that out, but I come from a military family. Both of my grandfathers were in the Army in World War II. Younger brother is active duty Air Force. So there's always been a military presence there, but I think that the veteran client base is some of the most, appreciative, generous, and just overall just really great people to deal with. There's a flag in the front office that is in a display box with a photo next to it of one of our great clients, guy by the name of Brendan Fitzgerald. Met Brendan about 6, maybe 7 years ago, and he came to us with a brand new Lexus RCF, which is it's a nice car, and he only wanted a front bumper PPF, which was odd to me. And I asked him, I said, well, it's a really nice car. Why are you only wanting to protect the front bumper? Why not do a full front and, everything else? And he said, well, I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I saved for this car for a long time, many, many, many years. And, I don't have a lot of money, and I want to do what I can, but this is all I can afford. And so we started talking. I learned his story. He was blown up in a Humvee in Iraq back in 2004, I believe. And so he dedicated almost 20 years to the Marine Corps, serving, and just a really incredible story. Got a lot of, after effects from the injuries that he sustained, and just a really, really amazing guy. And so we decided we wanted to do something special for him. So we kind of coordinated with his wife behind the scenes, was able to procure his car for a week or so. And it was kind of funny. He had started texting me about 3 to 4 days in, wanting to know what is taking so long. And he was a little worried about his car. But long and short of it was, we got a lot of the guys, even from, some of the independent shops to kind of collab on this project. And we did a lot of PPF, chrome delete stuff, ceramic coatings. And so we did this big reveal, totally pro bono for him, didn't charge him $1. And he's become just a really good friend. And he gifted us that flag. That flag flew above the U.S. Embassy in, I believe it was Baghdad, from 2002, 2004. He brought it home. He had it in his basement, was planning on keeping it forever, and felt like he wanted to give us that flag. So relationships like that, they mean the world to me. And if you can have an impact on somebody's life like that, it's just, there's no better feeling in the world. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of the impact that it has.
Yeah, I think, I'd say first and foremost, the group that we've got in the Finest Network it's a small group, but it really is the elite. It's the best of the best. And there's a reason why Corey doesn't let just any Joe Schmo join that network. Keeping the integrity of the brand intact, is paramount to him. And I love the fact that anybody that's in that network is the best. They've got an intimate knowledge of all things detailing, paint preparation, the coatings themselves are top notch. But anybody that's in that network, if anybody needs support, you can go to whomever and you're gonna get top notch, support.
Now having everyone be able to see
Yeah.
the culmination of your hard efforts and what you built.
It's great. I think there's no bigger honor than to have a collection of, top-notch peers in your industry all in my own shop. I have been a CQUARTZ installer for almost 10 years now. Truth be told, I haven't been great at going to VERGE and participating, but it's always been something that Corey and I have loosely talked about hosting. I've hosted a few other events in the past, and I'm just excited that everybody's here. I'd say probably 90% of the people I've never actually met. So I'm really looking forward to rubbing elbows, learning more about other installers, how they run their shops, and just building relationships.
To each other in this network, what might be some advice that you would tell this detailer or somebody in the industry?
I think the first thing that I would say is love what you do. If you love what you do, your passion will show through. From a business standpoint, people that are looking for a very high level of workmanship and quality, it's going to show through. They're going to see it. And if you plan on being around for a long time, if you want to make a career out of this, like any industry, you got to love what you do. And that is going to give you staying power. If you love what you do, you want to be the best that you can be and hold yourself to a super high standard, those things will follow. And I think it's really all just about surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. That's one of the things that's just beautiful about this network is people that feel the same way that I do about all of this. I've now got 70 or 80 of them in my shop, and I know every single one of them is just as passionate about as we are.
Consider choosing CQUARTZ or the Finest network as an option.
Sure, I think there's a lot of products out there now, and more now than ever. It seems that there's a coating company that's coming out every week, every month. Research is paramount. I always implore anybody that I speak with, do your research. Do your research on the company that's going to be applying the products that you're going to trust your vehicle with, but research the company itself, that the products that they're going to be used. You want to have a company that has a long-standing history of excellence, support network, USA distribution, that's been around, they're not going anywhere, and look at the types of shops that are installing those products. There's some coating companies out there that, people are running out of their garage, or, maybe it's a tint shop that they've never detailed a car in their life, but they offer ceramic coatings. Those things like that to me are red flags. And so I really try to educate anybody that is going to be working with us. Another big thing is stop by. Any shop that you're interested in working with, go stop by. Don't just call or email and ask for a price. There's so much more to what we do, and the relationship comes first. And you can learn a lot about a company by doing a shop tour. Come by, I'll show you around our shop. I'll show you where we work on your car, show you the products that we use. Generally speaking, there's cars that are in process, and if you're new to PPF, for instance, let me show you the way that we install PPF. This is the way that we do it. It might be different than the way that some of the other shops do it. And a lot of times, if someone's willing to make a trip, you can make a connection with them and get past that phone call, email, transactional type of a relationship. And it's all about building trust is really what it boils down to. If you can earn someone's trust, then it just, it goes from there. Use us. If I can help anybody in any way, my door is always open. I certainly don't have all the answers, and there are other shops like Joe Torbati that I aspire to, and we're going to continue to work and grow. But if I can help somebody with growing their business, anything really, I really enjoy doing that, and I'm encourage anybody, if you need help, reach out. I'm always available. My name is Brian Lewis of American Shine in Sterling, Virginia, and I am Team CQUARTZ.